Good evening. On our broadcast tonight, Vlad Kasaidin, a self-pronounced patriot and volunteer fighter for the Ukrainian army. Tonight, KSN tells the story. Dress code. Sofia Pavlova goes one-on-one with the students of AIS. And later, Couchgate. KSN sits down with junior class president Abir Al-Zahir and student representative Ron Negri to discuss the class of 2016. It's 5:15 p.m. on this Thursday night, reporting live from KSN Studios in AIS Vienna. I'm Ben Dietrich. Welcome to Newsnight. Tonight we will be starting with the story of Vlad Kasaidin, and in the field tonight are Sofia Pavlova and Andrew Ree, who are standing out on the AIS soccer field, and we'd like to have a conversation with them. And the first thing I'd like to ask you guys, good evening, Sofia and Andrew. So tell me, who exactly is Vlad?
Well, Vlad right now is a 20-year-old man who is serving as a volunteer fighter in the east of Ukraine. He's fighting for the pro-Ukrainian nationalists, starting in Donetsk, Donbass, the village of Pesky, and now in Mariupol. He has been through a lot. He has told me about how many times he's been in the hospital, the way that police has been oppressing him in his own city, and the way that he has been influenced by the war. He's told me about how much he had to sacrifice to fight for his own country. As a patriot, he left his university studies to go fight in Ukrainian civil war. He has also told me about the ceasefire. Well, he told me that the ceasefire is in play right now in the east of Ukraine, and the only people who are left out there are people like him, as he said, the patriots, the nationalists who are fighting for Ukraine, and then the other ones, the pro-separatists and the pro-Russians who are fighting for the separation of the east of Ukraine. Vlad has told me about his future plans, the way that he's hoping to fight more, and how he hopes to join the French Legion.
Thank you so much, Sophia. So can we expect to see the full article coming in the next week or so?
When will we find the article?
Well, the article will soon be up on KSN, and I really encourage all of you to read it. As soon as it's out, you will all be notified to be able to read the full interview on ksnvienna.com.
Thank you so much, Sophia. We look forward to reading that. I'm sure it'll be excellent and very interesting. Now, as we move back into the studio, we will be starting a new thing here at KSN called the 60-second News Blast. And, well, it's time for the new, highly graphic News Blast. First up, next week is the High School Musical, Urinetown. And yes, when I say urine, they mean like pee and toilets. It might sound weird, but it's actually very funny. I've read the entire script, and I'd say it's worth the trip. Also in other news, thanks to the selling of sushi at AIS, KSN investigators have declared 13 euros as the new running price for a quality lunch at AIS. How do you feel about buying small packs of sushi for $6.50 a pack? Let us know with #Newsnight, or we might mention you on the air. And students are dealing with the new restrictions of Instagram during school hours. Luckily, Google Plus still remains accessible. And Jarrett Lambie, he'll be taking over as high school principal next year. For next year's graduating class, that means they've had not one, not two, not three, but 4 high school principals in their careers. And last but not least, next week is ISST week, and AIS will be hosting Division II ISST girls basketball. Feel free to either attend the games or tune in to our live stream with computers and mobile devices. Those are the top 5 stories for this week, and now we continue to a story on the dress code at AIS. To you, Sophia.
In the beginning of the school year, the school administration has imposed new dress code guidelines for all students. KSN investigates whether the guidelines are effective and what do the students think about them.
No, I guess some of the things should be dress coded. Like, if you go in a swimsuit to school, okay, that should, not be allowed, obviously. But then, yes, it's effective, but not everything.
The dress policy is even necessary in our school.
No, because we're good students.
But I think if you tell people not to dress that way, they're gonna dress more that way to provoke you.
For example, last year I was in 8th grade, and Miss Hartwig, she would like dress code me for things that weren't even inappropriate, and that I think was like unfair. But I think
I'm not fully against saying that it's not fair, and I'm not saying that it is fair, but people want to express themselves, and what they're feeling inside is how they're going to show and what they're wearing. So it's their freedom, it's what they choose that they want to do.
Some students, especially female ones, feel as though dress code allows their staff and teachers to pick on them.
teachers shouldn't be like very mean about it.
Policy is even necessary in our school.
If the teachers keep picking on some specific students, then they just need to get uniforms.
Do you believe revealing dress habits of your fellow students can be distracting from studies?
Not really, because if you want to study, you're gonna study. If you don't want to study, you're just gonna find an excuse.
Do you think people are dressed
Yeah,
appropriately?
people are dressed appropriately, like most of the time, you know, for the 21st century, I guess.
What KSN has discovered was that the most students take the dress code just as a simple formality. And those who do not believe that it is their right to self-expression to dress the way that they want to.
So we're back now. Thank you again for Sophia for that excellent story on the dress code. And in the studio here, joining me today, we have class president of the junior class of 2016, Abir Alzair. And on the right, we also have Ron Megre, another student representative from the class of 2016. Thank you for joining me today here, guys.
Of course, it's a subject that needs to be talked about.
It is a subject. So before we get into this discussion, I want to fill all of our viewers in what's been happening so far. So for those of you who don't know, about last week, roughly a week ago, the three junior class couches were removed from the lounge area that the class of 2016 normally uses. Students are under the impression that this was, let's say,
A one-time event.
yeah, a one-time event led up to this, which was some of the class of 2016 kicking around a soccer ball on the highway, and after the principal had told them to stop, they continued to do so, and they ended up breaking a
Ceiling tile.
ceiling tile. That's correct. So tell me about this, Abir, because Abir, you've sat down with the principal now. I mean, and tell me what exactly has come of this situation. I mean, are the couches going to come back? If so, why, and what really caused the situation? Was it that event by itself? Because before you get started, from my understanding, there is a lot of confusion going on about this topic. If you look at the Facebook group, let's say, from the class of 2016, a lot of kids believe that they're not going to get the couches back at all. Is that a true statement?
Thank you for your points, and I do think this is actually one of the biggest problems that we have, is that there are so many misconceptions of the situation, and everybody seems outraged and frustrated, but they don't know what they're outraged for. Everybody seems to assume that it was this one incident with the one soccer ball being kicked on the ceiling that broke the tile is the reason why we don't have our couches. But that's absolutely not the case. Our grade has had so many complaints about noise from so many different teachers that have their rooms next to our hallway. I think at some point in this discussion we're going to talk about how this is kind of inevitable. By our place in the school, it's hard to keep the noise down. But I think the problem is what people don't seem to understand is that repeatedly over and over again throughout the entire year, we've had teachers saying that they could not concentrate, they could not teach their classes because our class was being loud and disruptive. And this was use of profanity, this was littering in the hallways, this was yelling, this was playing music, this was so many different events that led up to this moment.
So my question for you then is, do you believe it was the correct decision for those couches to have been removed?
This is kind of a two-sided answer for me. After talking to Mr. Harder, he even told me that this was one of his threats throughout the entire year. If you keep on talking, if you keep on being loud, we're going to remove the couches. And even though we've come to sort of consensus that this wasn't the most appropriate punishment for the entire grade, that something needed to be done to show the students that there was a problem.
So is that a no then, or is that a yes? If you had to give me one or the other, I know.
It's a difficult place, but I would have to say that it was a valid solution to wake up our grade and realize we do have a problem.
So thank you. So Ron, let me ask you then. Was the decision the correct decision, or was it not, and why?
Well, we students are kind of frustrated because the couches were kind of an important feature that we had. We used to sit there every morning, and now since we don't have them anymore, the library is kind of unnecessarily full. and because we don't have any other place to go. And I don't think that taking away the couches was the right thing to do.
Was the behavior unacceptable though?
Yes, I agree with, I agree with that, but I don't think that the rest of the class, that the whole class should suffer from not having any couches.
So was it would you say it's fair to say it was the majority of the class or smaller groups?
Definitely not. I think the whole point of the frustration of the grade is this collective punishment. This was a group of 2 to 5 to 7 students who have been the spotlight of these complaints, and it's a little frustrating that, and I can completely understand that to have these 5 to 7 students represent your entire grade, which isn't necessarily the case, because most of the people weren't there in the situation. They weren't watching what was happening, and they were to blame when they got their couches taken away.
Okay, so that may be true, but one question I do have is, I think it's fair to say that while they may not have been involved, isn't it also true that if they're using the area, was there a time in which you ever saw any kids step into this misbehavior by their fellow
There were
classmates?
definitely no stepping in. I was a part of the Block B free block last semester, which was one of the loudest free blocks in our school. That being, we had 12 students that were in that free block. We were all stuffed into 3 couches, and it was just loud. I witnessed personally Mr. Harder come up to us at least 10 times telling us to be quiet because he can't do his work because he can hear us screaming.
Right.
And I think even though the whole grade would like to put blame on these specific students, everyone at some point has contributed to this, whether it was littering or leaving wrappers behind or playing music or playing with a soccer ball. Whatever this was, it contributed to this whole reputation of our grade, which is not specifically what our grade
So-
wants to be known as.
To be clear, you think everyone in the grade has somewhat contributed to the removal of couches?
Yes. But I think after the discussion we had the student council with Mr. Harder, that it's come to a realization that we don't need to punish the entire grade for the actions of some. After
Isn't that what was done though? With
it
the
was
couches?
done, but this was not a permanent solution. This was not a solution. This was not a movement. How am I supposed to put this? It was a wake up call. Exactly.
So, I mean, we're talking about couches here, which might sound a little bit ridiculous, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like there's a greater problem here than solely the couches. I mean, and one of the questions I have to ask, I mean, not just the floor tiles, but I heard from Mr. Hart as well that sometimes the situation is so bad in the junior hallway that they don't even bring the admissions tours by.
Yeah,
Because they're afraid to bring them by.
Exactly. You never know what you're going to happen. You could hear a group of students using profanity. You could see trash can everywhere, and that's not the ideal we want to set forward to the people that might be coming to our school.
So my question then, and maybe, I don't know which one of you guys can answer this, I'll ask Ron first, but Ron, what do you think causes this type of behavior? And is it something about the class of 2016, an attitude that is formed that's special about this class, or is it the individuals? What exactly brought on this abnormal behavior, so to speak?
Well, I don't think it has to do anything with the class as a whole. Like, every grade has the particular has those certain people that don't take any responsibility, and even though we were warned multiple times, as a matter of fact, I was also part of the B block free block last year, and it was noisy, and even though Mr. Harder did come up a couple of times, this particular group of students did not listen and did not want to accept the consequences, and now the rest of the class has to suffer because of this type of behavior.
So do you think that, Abir, I mean, do you think there is a greater problem here than couches alone? Is there a problem with your class? Because you are kind of a leader of it, so to speak, in the public eye. So to the class members and to AIS, do you believe that there is a problem that needs to be solved?
I think one of the biggest problems that lies is the fact that the students in our grade assume that the couch is a right. But when you think about it, it's a privilege. The fact that a school is giving us couches for us to be more comfortable is a privilege. And I think the more people understand that this isn't our born right, we are 11th graders, we get the couches on the 11th floor. Like, this could easily be taken away as easily as our senior privilege could be taken away. If we don't show any improvement in our behavior, I would completely understand if Mr. Harder would not want to give us our privileges because we are not using them responsibly. Like,
So beyond the privileges though, I mean, I heard an interesting quote the other week from a teacher, and he asked us to describe our class, our grade, in one word. And it's an interesting way of thinking because most of the time we either think of ourselves, especially in international school, by our nationalities, by our friend groups, or maybe by the high school as a whole. But how often do we actually consider our grades as communities? Should we consider grade levels as communities? Is that worth some? Is that valuable to the class to help them grow?
I think it could
and
be.
and is there a healthy relationship in the class right now? So
I mean, I think this could be best answered by an actual class. I mean, I also am a student of the class of 2016. It's just, I see it from a completely different standpoint rather than being a person that has to address these issues rather than a person that's more experiencing these issues.
right. And what do you think, Ron?
Our whole grade, the whole grade 11 is, I wouldn't call it a community as a whole because in this grade we have different groups of people and those groups of people hang out with each other. Some even don't use the couches, some use the library, but I don't think it's correct to call our grade a whole community. And
Is that a good thing, or is
I
that
know
a
I
bad
don't think that's a good thing. And
Is this something?
our grade is divided.
Do you think that this is something that students, student council, or whatever, student council, maybe teachers, the school, is this something that maybe the grade itself needs to solve?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not only our grade; it's every grade.
I think the biggest problem for me personally is the amount of pressure and stress that the students of 11th grade put on the student council. I don't understand how this is my problem, me along with Ben, yourself, Steffi, and Lewis's problem, to fix the problem of the people of our grade that don't want to own up for their own mistakes.
This is an interesting point because in this discussion of couches, there was a big Facebook dispute. And so for those of you who aren't in the class of 2016 that are watching, there was a big Facebook dispute. And a lot of other things besides the typical vulgar language in Facebook groups, there are a lot of other things in this group that came out of this anger of the couches. And one of those things was targeted towards the student council. And it was targeted toward, oh, all you guys are supposed to be doing is funding your prom.
It's ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous reason because what makes me the most what really frustrates me, exactly, what frustrates me the most is that we are just as much of a part of the grade as you are. We all take hard classes. We all have the stress of work. On top of all of this, we have to raise 13,000 euros for a prom, which we are not a part of the prom committee, but we are doing the prom committee's job.
Is that minus the 8,000
Plus,
that we get from the school?
Exactly, but minus the funds that we get from the school. Plus this new situation that had absolutely nothing to do with the four of us. We were not present.
But
We were
maybe
not
that's
there.
the grand question, isn't it? Does it have to do with student council? The grade level as a community, certainly they're not responsible for the actions of individuals.
Absolutely not. But we're still the ones that are
But-
cleaning up after them.
But is it the grade levels, the student council's level job, or excuse me, is it the student council's job to create a community within the school, or within the grade?
I definitely agree, but the big problem here is that the student council is a reflection of the grade. We are reflecting what we see. We are not capable and not able to come up with a community if the people in our grade don't want a community. We can't force upon people to get along and talk to each other and want to help as much as we would love people to help us with prom. It's 4 people, 5 people that are planning, and Sunira Shah, thank you for all the work that you've done because she is taking the whole position of prom committee.
Ron, what's your opinion about student council? Do you approve of what it's been doing? Do you think that they should take on more? Do you agree with a beer?
I do agree with the beer, and we students, for example, the couch situation, we students do not want to. It's not right to do so, but we don't want to take responsibility for our bad deeds, and the student council is kind of a way, not for all of the students, but for the majority of our grade, student council is kind of the people, exactly. The people to put the blame on, like it's their responsibility. They're in charge of our grade.
So,
and there are still people in the grade. In our grade, I personally think that the removal of the couches still did not fully teach them a lesson because right now what they think yeah, a student council is going to take care of this. They're going to have a conversation with the principal, and
And
we're gonna
magically
get
we're
the
getting our
council.
couches
Not their
back.
problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's not
So
our
it's
problem.
not-
It's their problem.
So we've been pretty critical so far of problems, or the people who maybe caused this issue. And I think it's fair to say that it's agreeably why. But I guess my final question to you guys tonight is, what happens next, not just in terms of this couch situation, but for the class of 2016, for the high school community as well? What do you foresee specifically? I want to first ask Abir what you foresee doing in your job as student council to help build this community, and then I want to ask Ron if there's anything that he thinks they could add to that. So Abir, tell me, is there anything that
First,
we
just
can do
just since we
that
talked
you
about
will do?
what I will do. The first thing I want to talk about is the couch situation. To everybody who's not aware, I think I broadcast this to our grade. But on Monday during our lab block, the entire grade is having a meeting, and during this meeting we're just going to discuss the rules and regulations that we need to uphold when on these couches. And if the whole grade comes to a consensus and we realize that what we've been doing so far cannot continue, then we will get our couches back on Tuesday morning. Now to the bigger picture of how to unite our grade. This is no easy feat, and this is not something the student council can do alone. We can only do as much as help the grade unite, but we can't make them want to unite. So I think this is a problem that isn't necessarily solvable by the student council, and the best we can do is try to encourage the people in our grade to realize that we are a class, we are the class of 2016, and we only have one more year with each other until even next year. We don't know who's leaving and who's coming. This is international school, people come and leave, and as the moment is, we need to kind of embrace our
Embrace now.
Exactly, embrace now, and realize that blaming each other and putting blame on students that didn't necessarily were a part of it is not going to get us anywhere. And the only way we're going to get past this and unite as a grade is if everybody accepts their own responsibility and is able to admit when they've made a mistake. And we are here for a reason, and we are here to help you if you do make mistakes, but we're not here to be scapegoated and to deal with all the heat of things that we were not
Right.
in charge of.
I think you made yourself clear. Ron, before we go, anything to add?
Not really. I think Abir has made a clear point here, and yeah, I hope the only thing we can do as students is to take responsibility and care more for our environment. It's not just the like Abir said before. It's not just the noise that we make, and it's also the way that
We treat each other
exactly.
as well.
And you
the way we
treat each other, that's a good point.
exactly,
So,
and the way we treat the whole area with like you mentioned, the litter and
right. It's not that hard to put something in the trash. is it?
exactly.
So thank you guys so much for this interview. I have one last quick question, short answer. I'm asking this to Abir, but Ron, if you have an answer as well, that's fair to say. But since you're already in student council, there are executive board student council elections coming up. Are you running? Quick yes or no question.
Wow.
Undecided?
Undecided.
Yes,
Undecided.
no? Undecided. But it's
Undecided.
still a possibility.
It is a possibility.
There you have it from Abir Alzair. And Ron, are you gonna run?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay. Well, we want to congratulate and thank you guys all for joining us tonight. I also want to thank Ron for joining us specifically as a student representative. He's one of our new marketing directors at KSN, running our social media. So thank you for that, Ron. Thank you, Abir.
Of course.
It was lovely talking with you. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire KSN community, I'd like to say that's our broadcast for this evening. On behalf of the crew here at KSN, thank you for watching our live news broadcast, and we hope to see you here again for yet another news night. I'm Ben Dietrich, along with the rest of our crew. Have a great evening, and good night.